Hello, watchers and listeners. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Northern Lights Books Author Interview Plunge. Today's guest is award-winning fantasy and science fiction author Rebecca Tran. By the way, she also writes romance. Rebecca Tran holds a pharmaceutical doctorate and is the mother of two girls, 4 and 6 years old, and a Boston Terrier. I doubt she's actually the mother of the Boston Terrier, but you never know. She writes science fiction and fantasy. She spends her nights as a blogger, book reviewer, and authoring her next book. She currently has 6 novels and 2 short stories published. 2 of those novels are romance. Her novels are Neutral Space, The Rashad, Chronicles of the Coronitis, Part 1, A Guardian Falls, Chronicles of the Coronitis, Book 2, and For Their Sins. When she gets free time, she enjoys going to antique stores and resale shops to find unique and interesting teapots. She also loves sewing and quilting, although her family and writing take up the bulk of her time. You have to appreciate, folks, she has 2 children, a dog, a job that I'm sure requires ongoing education and certification courses. She either loves caffeine or has discovered how to avoid sleep. Please welcome Rebecca Tran. Hey, Rebecca! Hey. Hello, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm fine. You're looking chipper today. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for taking the time out of being a pharmaceutical doctorate. So you no, you don't prescribe, you fulfill
I
prescription.
fill. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, let me tell you about, no, I'm kidding. all the people viewing are like, well, where is she? Can I get some? All right. Okay. We're going to go into the questions. Is that okay? You ready?
Yes.
All righty. Very good. I believe in previous conversations, you mentioned that you started writing to get over the loss of your father when you were 16, and that's got to be impactful. No questions about it. And that writing, what you wrote about getting over your loss of your father, is now published. Can you share some of that journey with us?
Yeah. So when you're 16 and you lose, it's one of the hardest things, and you don't know how to process it. And especially in the 90s, it was this huge stigma to go and see a counselor. And so you're 16, you don't know what to do. And I was scared to death. So the only thing I could think of to do was to lose myself in this fantasy. And the fantasy that I came up with was my first book, which was The Rashada. So it's a young woman who sees her own father murdered before her eyes and swears vengeance. So her journey is to basically get vengeance on the man who murdered her father. So the way I dealt with it was to basically put myself into her shoes and just work through my problems. So the first story basically is my growth and my dealing with it through her eyes. So it's a very personal story. It took me a very long time to finish it because 1, I didn't know what I was doing, and 2, I just was dealing with my issues. So as I was dealing with the issue, she was dealing with her own issues, and it was just a very personal story for me. So I think it took me about 3 years to finish.
So it's actually autobiography.
In some ways, yeah, it really was. It autobiography in a very sword and sorcery type setting.
Well, that's one of the ways to deal with pain, is to fantasize it so you can deal with bigger than life issues. Congratulations on getting it published. That's
Thanks.
On Amazon, I'm guessing.
It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, everywhere, actually. Anywhere you can, every major retailer.
Excellent. We'll have links to that, folks. You chose epic fantasy as your genre. Of all genres, aside from wanting to kill this guy, why that?
That's what I was reading at the time. It's one of my favorite things to read. Terry Goodkind was a major influence for me. That's what I was reading in high school and at the time when I started writing. One of my favorite writers, also Dave Duncan, was a big influence for me. His Seven Sword series was a big thing for me too. I just, like I said, it's a great way to just get lost in it. I mean, I grew up also watching The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all of that. I mean, that was one of the things that I watched. I have to admit, I've not read the books. I've tried a couple of times, but J.R.R. Tolkien is very in-depth with what he likes to write. And I kind of like to just read fluff sometimes. So, that's not J.R.R. Tolkien.
No.
But yeah, it's what I like to read, so it's what I like to write. So now I've branched out a little bit more since then, but that's what I like to read, so it's what I like to write. So.
Very good. You mentioned that you like long books, 600 plus pages, and that you're just getting going when you reach page 300. But your publishers want books around 250 pages. So do you take your 600 plus page book, a single book, and break it into a series? Is that how that works for you?
Yeah. So book 1 and book 2 of the Chronicles of the Coronitas was actually originally one book, and it was over 600 pages. I think the original word count was 300,000 words. And when I was submitting that to publishers and agents, they were all telling me the same thing. It was way too long, that the average publishing house would not accept it. So even when I went to publish it on my own as an independent publisher, I decided to break it in half. But finding that break is a very hard thing to do because it wasn't designed to be 2 books. And actually the next book that I'm working on for that, again, is one really long book. And so again, finding that point to break it in half has been a struggle. So it's been delayed, but that would be book 3 and 4.
Okay.
So
those will be out relatively soon. Can we look forward to those?
I don't know, because I started writing romance and it's really picked up and people really seem to enjoy it. Whereas fantasy and sword and sorcery, you have to really find a dedicated audience to get into that. So it's been harder to like kind of break into that market. And I really wish people would, because the stories are there. And I think once there's another book that comes after book 3 and 4 that I really want to get out there, but you have to read 3 and 4 to understand the background behind it, even though it's a prequel that I want to get out there. So it's doing things in order that they have to read everything. You know, it's one of those kind of one step, but I have to get the audience going. So right now I have to kind of do what's selling to get that audience. So hopefully I'm out there before I can go back and do that. So I have to build a brand, basically.
Understood. Your vampire paranormal romance is For Their Sins, published by Hoffman and Hoffman. Your vampires are descended from the Nephilim, and you told me that your Christianity influences your writing. So how do you deal with evil versus good in your work?
So in that story, there are 2 different types of vampires. There's the Nephilim that are basically like what you said. They're the descendant. They're basically a cross between angels and humans, which is the whole premise behind the Nephilim. In the Bible, Nephilim are actually giants. They aren't vampires, but it's that basic premise. And there's actually, you know, whole books of the Bible that were never actually made it into the Bible because they didn't fit the standard criteria that the church requires for them to be into the Bible. But anyway, so I did a lot of research into that in order to write the book. But that whole premise forms the good class of vampires. And then the evil class of vampires are those that basically were cast the original good class of vampires and ended up feeding on humans, which they're supposed to do they're only supposed to basically hunt down the evil or wrongdoers. So basically the whole premise of the book are those descended from the Nephilim are supposed to hunt down the wrongdoers and send them back basically to hell. So they're supposed to assist. It's hard to explain. They're supposed to assist and send them back to hell to help clean up the earth, basically. And so when those who don't do what they're supposed to and do wrong, it's like they're cast out of that system and are put to death, basically. And some of them go wrong and they feed on humans during this process and get some of their humanity back, if you will, and become the more traditional vampires. And they feed on, they then become what we know as vampires. And they get some of their Nephilim-like qualities back, but they aren't true Nephilim. They aren't the true good guys anymore. So now they're these soulless creatures. So now it becomes a war between the two of who's going to come out on top. So I guess that's the way I kind of justified it, is one is fighting for good and one is fighting for evil. One is still God's chosen people, and one are these soulless creatures. Now, the Nephilim are not, they are, they are not good creatures by any means. I mean, they still have very human-like flaws. So again, that's that human influence there that have very corrupted the angel half of them. They live very human-like existences. They experience time, they experience loss, love, everything that we could go through. So it's a very humanistic story of love and loss. So.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, I understand that you've written some Christian erotica, and I can't even imagine that. That's my ignorance. All I can come up with is the Song of Solomon on steroids. So what exactly is Christian erotica?
So it's not Christian erotica per se. So so what that was is it's a side story based on For Their Sins. So one of the Nephilim, it's her story basically. And she's one of the most sexually promiscuous of all of them. So it's her story and how she came in, how she met the main character of the original book. So she's much older than the original character. So it's from the time she was born up until the time she met the main character. But since she's so much more promiscuous, it allowed for an erotica, if that makes any sense. But to say it's an actual Christian erotica is not, it's not really Christian erotica.
All right.
But yes, I am a Christian. So it goes back to that whole question.
Okay. Tell us about your awards.
So I now have 6 books out, and let's see, I think 5 out of this, I want to say 5 out of the 6 either have awards or are in the running for awards. So the Rashada, A Guardian Falls, For Their Sins, and Neutral Space all have either gold or silver awards from a blog site called Literary Titan. And then Neutral Space and Hunted Dragons of the South, which is one of my paranormal romances, are now in the running for a golden quill from Golden Box Publishing, which is a small independent literary magazine. So the actual awards will be coming out in July. And actually, if you want to go and check it out, they're running a voting right now. Well, this is probably come out afterward, but right now they're running voting for Reader's Choice Awards. So they're also in running for Reader's Choice Awards right now. So those are what I have right now. So that, I think that just leaves, I'm sorry, not Hunted, it's Dragons of the North. So that would just leave Dragons of the South does not have an award. So that would leave one book.
Well, get cracking. Come on.
So
You have one book
right,
with no awards. Jeez. Why are we talking? Just kidding. Congratulations. That's excellent. One of your publishers, I don't know if this is still your publisher, one of your publishers was Hoffman and Hoffman's, and you mentioned that you're not satisfied with their marketing. You've self-published because it allows you to do more marketing, approach different venues. Can you give us the pros and cons of each?
so started out with all of my books in independent publishing. And I met someone who was published through Hoffman and Hoffman, and they were taking open submissions. So I sent For Their Sins in, hoping that when I sent that in, he would help me out with marketing, because I was actually doing, a few book sales here and there, and it was kind of slow. And now that I've sent it into him, there is no marketing whatsoever from him. So I'm still stuck in the same place that I was before I ever sent it in. I have to do all of my own marketing. So the only thing that going with a traditional publisher has done for me is get, like, I don't know, maybe 2 cents more worth of credibility from a few people in the publishing world. That is all it has done for me. And he's a very small publisher, so most people don't even know him. So my thoughts on that are, unless you're going to go with the big 5, which I have sent a manuscript in to them, and it's very expensive, and you just sit there and wait. I don't even know that I would bother again, because right now my book is tied up in a 2-year contract, and I can't do any ads. I can't do any sales on it. And it costs more than my other books to sell, which I have no control over changing the book blurb or anything. I wouldn't do it again. So because I've actually sent him emails and asked him if we could, rebrand it a little bit, and I've nothing,
Ouch.
So yeah.
Reviews are important, and you've received some good ones. Obviously, you're getting awards. How do you go about getting reviews? How do you do that?
So normally I try and go into different blogs who specialize in my genre of books. I haven't had a lot of time to do that recently, but that would normally be how I would try to do that. I have tried a service called AXP that would actually advertise my book to their readers and send it out. But I did not have a lot of good luck with that. Like, I got, I think, 2 reviews, and that cost me a lot of money to do that. So I don't know that I'll be repeating that either.
Yeah.
The biggest thing you can do to get reviews, if you were to do a service like that again, I would ask other authors. That's your biggest link on everything in the indie publishing world. Ask other authors. I would say probably 80 to 90% of us are out there to help each other. We all have to sell our own stuff. We all have to market our own stuff. We all have to get our own reviews. And we all know what it's like to try and do that. So your biggest asset is another indie author. I don't know that I've maybe met 1 or 2 that were out there to, like, be mean. So I've met a lot of them. I mean, I write with a group of, I think, 12 other authors right now on a blog. So I have to tell you, like, they're so nice. The indie community is wonderful.
Good. Good to all of us who are indie authors.
Right.
So you mentioned, and you just mentioned again, that you like helping other authors, and you're on this blog with 12 other authors, and you're all helping each other. So what's that like? What's that about? How does one become involved with this group, or with you helping them? Or
You can
getting an
just,
interview, whatever,
Just email me or go through my website. Right now, I'm not doing any reviews because I'm so busy writing and blogging, and I have a few personal issues going on. But honestly, just if you just go through my website and do a contact form, or even just I think my email is on there. You can just email me at any time. I also blog with, like I mentioned, a group of, I think we're up to 12 other authors right now, called Our Author Gang. You've heard of us?
No, it's a great little name, Our Author Gang.
Oh, yeah. So we're growing in popularity every day, but there's 12 of us, and we each take a different day to post a new blog. But like I said, we all have our own genre of books, and we all post on different topics, and all of us are more than willing to help anybody. So some of us even post about different, writing topics.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, between all of us, we can tell you about any type of genre of writing. So, but, just yesterday I emailed my new book blurb to a friend, to one of the other members and who writes romance, and I asked her, and one of the other members put up her new book cover and was like, hey, what do you think about this? So, but we do that for anybody on Facebook, or, and we take free of charge. We put up free of charge advertising. All we ask is that you share our blog.
Great.
So
You use Draft to Digital, and one of our other authors we've interviewed, uses that service. What's your experience with Draft to Digital?
I love Draft to Digital. And I'll say this because I had to pay, I think, close to $100 to have one of my books formatted. And it was like the biggest nightmare because she did it wrong the first time, and I was like emailing back and forth at midnight, and it was just horrible. And then I discovered Draft to Digital, and you just upload your file, you put it in there, and you get it on there. I mean, who cares if all your books look similar? It's not that big a deal. But you put it in there, you tell it what format you want, and you go through, and it looks very professional, and it's free. And then, right, all their formatting is free, and it's very easy to use. And then you can basically put your book on every major retailer that you can. I think they offer like 20 major retailers. Maybe not that many, but lots. I mean, it's Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. They'll do Amazon for you if you want. I can't even think of them all, but there's several on there that you can do, and it's all one universal link. And now they're even offering author pages and all different things. And they take, I think, 10%, which is very goofy.
Right. That's a traditional agent's percentage. So good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now back to you not being an author. You have a dog and 2 kids. If you could have a personal mascot, what or who would it be? And not your dog and 2 kids. What else might it be? A dragon or a vampire? What else?
Yeah, probably actually a dragon. So since I started writing these dragon books, I've like fallen in love. I think I have a man crush on one of my own characters. So I mean, I guess that's good or bad. I don't know. So, and I
don't know
said,
the character, so I can't say. But okay.
I told my kids that if my books ever went to bestseller, that I would get a tattoo of a dragon. So yeah, probably.
Okay.
I mean, what a way to celebrate, right?
Hey, there you go.
But yeah, probably a dragon. So
okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite
probably,
personal?
Blue dragon.
Very good. What's your favorite personal anecdote, good or bad, about yourself?
Oh, you want a specific anecdote?
Whatever you care to share.
So I don't know, if you're not in the industry, you probably don't know, but a pantser is somebody who doesn't plan ahead when they're writing, and that is me. I never know how my books are going to go. I have a general idea of, major plot points, but how they're going to get there, I don't know. Sometimes I don't even know. Well, actually, usually I don't know how the book's going to end. And that's my problem. Like, as soon as I know how the book's going to end, I actually get bored. So I have about, I think, 2 books sitting in a drawer that I started and I figured out how they were going to end, and now I'm bored. And that's terrible. So, but
Okay.
so I know like a lot of detail about the book, so I could probably finish it in like a week or 2 if I really sat down and did it. But I'm so bored with it because I know exactly what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. So you see a movie once and that's it, never again. Okay.
No, actually, I
Yeah.
like rewatching movies, but my own stuff, yeah, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I like rereading books too, but when it comes to writing them, I get really bored.
Okay. Alrighty. Good to know. What's your favorite personal anecdote, good or bad, about someone else? Now you're going to tell
Hmm.
us about someone who read one of your books, knew how it was going to end, and stopped reading.
No, um, no, you're gonna get a kid story probably. Let's see. Okay, so yesterday I took the kids to Six Flags, and my daughter never rode a roller coaster before. So we took her on her first roller coaster, and she was so excited. Um, and she just couldn't stop smiling the whole time. Like, it was so cute. She just like screamed the whole time and smiled the whole time. And when she got off, I was like, "Did you like that?" And she's like, "Yeah, I really liked it. It was so much fun." So now I get a roller coaster buddy.
Great, because I don't do roller coasters at all. All righty. I want to thank you, Rebecca, for your time today. I got one more question. Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah.
Okay. What question do you wish that someone would ask about you or your book, but nobody has?
Mm, tough one. Um, I don't know. I honestly don't. I think nobody ever asks. I think nobody ever asked about Alexandria. Like, that book gets the least attention for their sins. And I think I wish more people would ask about that book. Like, I know I say that the Rashada gets very little attention, but I think For Their Sins gets hardly any attention. And I wish more people would ask about, like you did, more about the religious aspects between it, because it is written like a paranormal romance, which was not my original intention, but it did end up being that way. But the religious aspects in there, the undertones are very much in there. The battle between good and evil, and you know, um, the constant tension between the two. Um, like, nobody ever asked about that. Like, it's totally glossed over. Um, and just I don't know. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but that like whole aspect is just totally glossed over. It's more viewed as the action and the romance, which is great because that was really intended. But the whole religious aspect is just totally glossed over. So I wish more people would examine it from that angle.
Okay. Well, in that case, Rebecca, I'm curious about For Their Sins, and I believe the main character is Alexandria. And how do you deal
Yeah.
with the battle between good and evil and all of that religious overtones?
I should have known that was coming. Yeah, like I was explaining earlier, you know, the Nephilim were designed to be God's cleanup crew, basically, to help out, um, to help return, you know, to help clean up the earth when the flood didn't. Um, you know, um, and even that got away from them, like only so many of them. And then they end up having to fight this war with their own soulless creatures, you know, their own vampires. So they get so overwhelmed with that war that they almost destroy themselves. Like their whole purpose gets lost. So even they get to this point where they don't know what they're doing anymore, in the book. And then Alexandria gets to a point where everything gets put on her shoulders and she doesn't know what to do anymore. So again, it's this whole humanistic thing about what do you do when everything is on your shoulder and this weight, and you know, um, yeah, I don't know, that it was just interesting to see it from a whole new perspective, that God created a whole new race just to act as his cleanup crew.
Hmm.
You know, what if that really happened?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what if there's this whole other underworld that you never knew about? You know.
Fascinating. All right. Rebecca Tran, author of Neutral Space, The Rashada, Chronicles of the Coronitis, Part 1, A Guardian Falls, Chronicles of the Coronitis, Book 2, For Their Sins, which we just heard about, romance novels. She's got it all, folks. And she's on our book. What is that? The
Our author gang.
our author gang. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for taking the time to talk with us today. Truly appreciate it. We hope that we'll see more of your stuff and you'll win more awards and you'll make me jealous, and that'll be great. So thank you. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.